Alright. Yeah, so talk today about the Sitecore CDP and Personalize. And yeah, I apologize for today. I really hope to show you the demo in actual and click around and actually see the thing. But apparently there is like Sitecore retired the old one and created a new portal. They deleted all the old accounts and created new ones. And there is like a 10 days lead time to it. So yeah. So couldn't get my access on time. But I still have a lot of good pictures and things for demo, and we'll see it together. Yeah, so what is CDP? So the CDP is basically all your customer data platform. So all the customer data should be in one place, and it will do some decisioning, some personalization, if you call it A/B testing as well. And those are the experiment here. Decisioning is like if you have any business plans or anything. And once you're happy, you could convert it to an actual experience for the users and enable it across channel. So yeah, it's a lot of terms, but basically what we're talking about here is those two products here, the CDP and Personalize. So Sitecore separate them to two, so you could buy one of them or the other, or both of them for that matter. And this is the separation between the two products. So if you bought CDP, you will get the data collection, profile unification, segmentation, analytics. We'll go through that in detail. And if you bought personalization, you just get the front end piece of it, which is the testing, optimization, targeting, and some decisioning as well. So for the sake of this presentation, we will assume that we have a product that uses both of them together, and we wouldn't create that separation anymore. It's just one product. So when I refer to it CDP, it's both of them. So the Sitecore CDP, if you are familiar with Google Analytics, it works exactly the same way, where you have like interactions and you have like Stream API here collecting the interactions data and putting it in the CDP. And this is a glimpse of how it looks like, and we're gonna go through that interface in detail as well. Yeah, I just want to give you like a glimpse of how it looks like. So there's a couple of APIs here, and it's this area is rapidly changing by Sitecore. As I said, they retired the old one, created a new one, and there's some new changes to it as well. So they have like the new, Stream API, the one that the front end will connect to, and the JavaScript will send all the interactions, the events, and stuff like that to the Stream API. The REST API is kind of created for developers to kind of put something, maybe Postman scripts, and read something, update CRUD operations on your data. And the batch API dedicated for like heavy lifting, heavy load kind of thing. Right. So how you connect to the Stream API? There's three standard ways. You could use their libraries. It's called like client-side integration kind of libraries. It's called Engage SDK, where it's a simple JavaScript. You install it in your stuff and you initiate it and then start using it as an event triggering and stuff like that. If you have Google Tag Manager already in your website, great. You don't need to do anything. Just install that JavaScript. You already kind of have a lot of events happening in your website. You'll start collecting those and to use the same Google Analytics collection to use it in CDP as well. So you don't need to do anything. You just need to initiate it and start using it. You could also use the server-side integration. If you have like a backend or something and you want to call the REST API to do some decisioning before rendering stuff, you could also do that. Yeah, just kind of, they put kind of warning in the thing. It's like if you're using client-side stuff, it could be blocked by the ad blockers. So it's something that worth mentioning, worth keeping in mind. Yeah, so if you have Google Analytics already, you just create a new tag in Google Analytics, chuck in this code here that Sitecore already provided, you put in your keys and the initial variables kind of, and you're good to go. You're already integrating. So it's really easy to start, to get started, especially if you're using Google Analytics. Now let's look at how the identity work here. And once you visit the website for the first time, it will give you like a random ID, and it will give you, we don't know anything about you yet, but we know the pages that you visited and what's not. We call you a visitor at this point of time. Once you identified yourself in a way or another, you logged in or you used some activity to identify yourself, we know who you are now, so you will be called a customer. And the old profile will be deleted and will be called retired, and all your data will be carried across. So you still have the old account, but it's retired, and anything will be copied across to your account. There is a couple of session types here. The open session is when you're actually visiting the website now, when your session is still open. The browse session, when you're done, you left the session timed out, it's browse session. Or it's converted session. You did something, you purchased something, or did something good, registering or something along those lines. And if you abandon the session completely, put something in your cart, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to change my mind, close the website, this is an abandoned session. So now you could go to that customer and kind of notify them, give them discounts or whatever. So for the sake of this, we created this website here. We visited in incognito mode. So this is the first kind of visit to the website, and the CDP gave us and triggered an event here, and it gave us an ID. Still doesn't know anything about us, but it will start collecting interaction, and as soon as we identify ourselves, we'll carry over those stuff to the actual account. So this is my account here, just to give you a glimpse of how it looks like and the overview. And some metrics, I visit the website in the morning and night. Usually I'm active at those times, active at these channels, the web channel, email, not so much. And you can see my timeline. There is browse sessions here. You can scroll in, see all my sessions, see which one are timed out, this one abandoned session, and things like that. So this is similar to experience profile in the old XP side of things. So the event itself will contain this information, and you could extend it to any information you want, really. It's a JSON format at the end of the day, so if you have any custom requirements, very easy to integrate it. The channel is where you came from, the browser ID is the one that we saw earlier, some timestamps, the view, the page that you visit, and your identity, if you put any search terms or stuff like that. This is the initials ones, and there is a bit more, but those are the important ones here. So we saw here the abandoned session, but if we clicked on this part here, where it's like the bottom part of the session, you could see the actual event that happened in that session. And if you clicked on that gear thingy, you could see that all the properties that happened in this session. Or if you clicked here, you could see it in a JSON format, kind of. So it's easier for developers to kind of copy paste stuff and see the actual values there. There is a term called point of sale, and that is equivalent to a website for a mobile app. So you cannot have any interaction point with the customer, you call that a point of sale. And for any new project or website or some kind of, you created one point of sale, and all your interaction will come to that point of sale. Right, it will have these properties as well, name, market, brand, and timeout. And yeah, you could use it later on for analytics and grouping the data and the audience and all of that. So it looks like that simply here. And you could create one as well if you have a brand. So let's walk through the navigation menu very quickly and see what each one does very quickly. And how. So the first one here is the customer data that we saw earlier. And here you have the guests subscription lists. If you have any email subscription list or anything like that marketing people do, any batch segments, right? So this is all about your customer data. You have the audience sync. This is usually if you're integrated with another external system, like a CRM or something, and you have the data being collected, you can look at it here. The experience and experiment is exactly the same thing. Technically the same thing. The only difference is that you start with an experiment, and once you're ready, it becomes an actual experience for the user. So anything under testing, under kind of, checking kind of is called experiment. Anything ready, published, or actively working is called experiment. You have the decisioning, all your business rules, all your decisioning engines, anything you could write code here as well. So if you have any custom code, if you have any integration with any external systems, external system could be anything, even AI kind of decisioning as well. If you want, you could have it here. The library, a lot of pre-built stuff. So if you're a developer and you want to build stuff pre-defined for marketer people, you will build it and put it here, and they will be able to use it across the site. A bit of dashboards. The dashboard is not so much customizable at the minute, but it still shows you all the important metrics, and you could customize it to a limit. The connections, it's kind of like a plugin, so you can see this first one here, Send Proxy. If you have this one, you could trigger events to Sitecore Send. This is the old name for Sitecore Send, and it will send the emails for the customer. Right. So I talked a little about the web experiment and experience, and this is the area where you define what you need to do. You define your variants. I need to choose between two images. I don't know which one is going to work, the cartoonish one or the serious kind of image. You have your variants there, and you define your experiment. You have a control for your experiment. You're happy. You move on to an actual experience. Decisioning model, talk about it, because it's like an area for you to see the diagrams and stuff, and you could write your own behaviors, and you could integrate it to any external APIs, or you could write your own. So let's explore the interface. Let's see each one of those a little bit separately. So if we go to the experiment part here, to the web, full stack, by the way, to any mobile apps or anything like that. So we'll focus on this web area. You could see here your variants. We have control, nothing, and then we have our alert bar as a variant. So we define those, and we also define the page. Which page is this experiment is running on? Is it in the whole website or specific kind of pages? Audience, who is this running towards? It's like you can define list, or you could define specific people, or the decisioning as well. Which decision model are we going to use for this experiment? So if you clicked edit here on the variant, you could actually see the variant here, the alert at the very top here, rendered nicely. And if you clicked on the general, you could see more settings. You could give the marketers and the non-technical people a little bit of more settings to control that variant. Or you could actually look at it in a code kind of view. This is your HTML, and here you have some configuration. If you looked at the data section here, you could see the properties of the current customer visiting this portal kind of. And you could put your own customer here if you want, the ID of the customer, and it will show you the properties of that customer. It's very handy to copy paste things and to make it easy for you to kind of build things. This preview API, I appreciate it's a bit small, but it's called preview API. When you click it, it's like a minimized version of Postman, where you could actually simulate a request and response and see how it behaves. If you move to snippet is like predefined stuff. So if you're wondering how to do this or what is the actual format for it, you could Google things anytime, but you could also check it here very quickly. So the decision model, you will have like a simple list like that, and have like a status in production or still in draft. Let's open one of them, and you would have your variants here. So in the decisioning model, you kind of defining your journey, or what are you trying to do actually. If we look at this variant, we could add a variant. You could add it an empty one, or you could copy the current one and change it. So if you clicked on variant 1, you could copy it and then add your changes to it. So ideally you would have a lot of, not a lot, but handful of variants, because you're not really sure what you're doing yet with the experiment. And once you're ready, you can put it on test and production, or you can delete it and put it on archive. So this decisioning model kind of take the guest information and take the session information and get page views, and then decide something on the decision table, like the top 10 pages. And then in the decision table, we see in the top 10 pages, please show this in the call to action or something like that. So you can also build your own custom events here and custom operations. And if we looked at this decision model, let's look inside. You could see here the top 10 pages as an input for this particular decision table. And in the output, marketers could define what to do in this call to action button, what to do in that image URL. And this will be exposed as a JSON, and your front end will be able to read that JSON data and change the rendering based on it. So that the call to action button will change to this name if it was one of the top 10 pages. So let's put all of that together and see kind of a journey, how we connect those pieces together and how it's going to look like. So again, we defined our variants. The variants, we looked at it here, but this time I'll put decision result that output 0 and alert message. So this is like a template to show me the message here in this part, and this will come in from this decision model that we're gonna see soon, and it's gonna build and show me the alert message on top. So let's have a look at the code inside. The code inside is very simple, where you have some initial code here, where you initiate things. And the only thing I'm doing here is triggering event when you click on the X button in the alert, and trigger another event if you clicked on the accept button. So those will trigger events to CDP, and that's all what I'm doing here in the front end JavaScript. Right. So let's go to the decision model and see how it looks like. I have one box here that and one JavaScript inside it. It's called cancel alert before. Let's see what's inside. So what I'm doing here, I'm defining the alert message. Normally, it will be buy product in the next hour and get 10% discount. So people could accept it or could cancel the alert and dismiss it. If they ever dismiss the alert before, the alert will happen again, and it will say, I swear to God, this is the maximum discount that I can give you. 20% is the final offer. Do you actually want to buy? And yeah, well, yeah, this is the second offer. Give him 10%. If he dismisses it, give him another 20%. Kind of. Okay, so let's launch this experiment and see how it's going to behave. So we're going to click on the start button, and we're going to say, yeah, run it immediately. We want to run it now. It will take a minute or less than a minute, couple of seconds to publish, and it will be published. And now let's go back to our demo website and see how it's going to behave. So we're opening the website in incognito normally, and we visit in the pages, and we kind of visited this page, and this is the page that we're running the experiment on. So yeah, so after a second or so from visiting the page, the alert bar will appear, and it will tell you, oh, there is like a 10% discount. I don't like 10%. And we visit the website normally. When we come back to it again later, it will say the new message now. Oh, this is the final offer. And I'll find, okay, I'll accept it this time and take the 20% discount. So there is a bit of QA tools here as well, and things to kind of make it easy for you to debug and troubleshoot and kind of test your things as well. So if you clicked on preview here and you see the URL of the current page that we're running the experiment on, and we go to this page, you can see the URL is a little bit, not the standard URL. There's a lot of query parameters, and those query parameters will tell the Sitecore CDP that, yeah, this is should render the QA tools here, and it will render here automatically. And when you open it, you can see your QA tools here. So what we will do is kind of change the value. So you could say automatically run as you are, or show me the original variant, or show me the variant one, the alert bar that we're doing. So click on the alert bar, click on reload, and it will show me the alert bar on top. This is very handy as well if you want to look at it from different customer perspectives. You can just put the customer here, prepare your customer data and journey and whatnot, and when you view it, it will view it based on his step in the journey. So if he clicked on the bar before, or if he didn't, it will render as that customer. So it's easy for us to test stuff. So this is a comparison between the current XP that we have and the Sitecore CDP, and this is purely from my point of view, so please challenge me if you think otherwise. So the current XP is a PaaS installation, and this is a complete SaaS offering that has nothing to do with your infrastructure. So I like the SaaS model way better than the PaaS, with all the overhead of infrastructure management and all of that. So I will give this point to the CDP. The XP was a little bit clunky and hard to test, and there is like 20 minutes of kind of timeout, and you have to create that session kind of. It's very hard to kind of see where things are going and to test it, and very slow to develop things on it. But the new one is very quick, very swiftly. Yeah, the things are very, very, very nice, and it's all in the front end as well, so you don't have any back-end stuff that you need to worry about. So I'll give this point to the CDP. The XP has a lot of problems, unfortunately. There's like this extensive interaction problem where if you have one customer that has too many interactions inside it, will create some kind of blockage, create a lot of problems, and then you need to think about cleaning them, or I don't know. Yeah, but this one, there's no apparent issues with it. And yeah, works very smoothly. Point goes to the CDP again. This is server side. This you can only run your personalization on the server side. Here you could run your personalization or A/B testing or whatever on the server side or on the front end, on the client side. So yeah, you could get way more control now. So I'll give this point to the CDP as well. XP used the personalization rules and create those kind of nice kind of English way of reading the rules, and it was nice. Here you run your web experiment and experience, and it's very similar. So I think this point wouldn't go to anyone. It's just a different way of doing things, and yeah, I'm trying to be as fair as I can, but yeah. So in XP, we used to, oh, sorry, I get my points here. In XP, we used to give the content variant, like we create the content variant, and then you give it to the content editors. The content editors now will be able to run their personalization. They create another variant out of it and another image, and they can run their personalization nicely without any intervention from developers anymore. But for this one, for the CDP, the front-end people need to be engaged with and create those templates and create those variants, and they need to have a communication with the marketing team, which components really, it's not by default for all the components. You need to define which components that you're going to run your experiments on, and then build them on the CDP. So it takes a little bit of more effort. And now you have content in the CDP, and you have content in the Sitecore side of things, and you need to make sure that they are synchronized in a way. Or you find an intelligent way of doing it as well. So it's up to you how you define it. And I find that a little bit worse than the previous experience. So I'll give this point to the old XP, not to the CDP. The marketing automation in the XP is equivalent to the decision modeling here. But I believe the decision models have a lot of flexibility into it that doesn't exist in the marketing automation. So I give this point to the CDP. For example, you saw me writing code here about how the JavaScript is going to behave. If I want to do the same simple thing in the Sitecore XP, in the marketing automation is not the right tool for it, but if I want to do the same things, I'll probably take a lot more time to be able to do that. Yeah, experience profile is very equivalent to the customer data section that we saw earlier, but it's very buggy product, very slow. We all kind of experienced it before, and it's not the ideal product. This one is way quicker, way smoother, and it's nicer to work with. Experience Analytics and Personalizer in XP. Here, in XP, they always try to compete with Google Analytics. And the CDP, it understands the position, what CDP is good for and what CDP is not. And it works with Google Analytics together, as opposed to being a competitor for it and always lose the competition. So I feel that that was always happening with Experience Analytics and Personalizer. I don't know any clients who actually use them properly and fully. So yeah, this point goes to the CDP as well. EXM, one product, create email marketing and stuff like that. Here again, they didn't want to compete at all. It knows its position. Anything related to the email campaigns will be in the Sitecore send. And they created the connector that you saw earlier to kind of trigger the emails and what's not. Yeah. So again, I will give this point to the CDP. The XP drive the personalization using the points and the goals. So you define your goals as a marketer, you give them points, and now you could use those points for the personalization. But here they left it open for any value definition for the marketers. You could use potentially the easiest one is the conversion rate. That means we saw earlier, if any session converted, you could use that as a method to build your personalization on. But it's open, depends on what they're trying to do. So you have all the data to choose from. So again, this will be different perspective and different way of doing things. So I will leave it balanced. But we all know who's the winning here. So it's, we need to count the points and you know. Okay, so a little bit of points to see in consideration while we're doing the migration. So we need to look at the client, where the client position is at the minute. Are they XM only? Do they have XP or not? Are they actually using the XP or not really? So those are three kind of clients. Once we identify where are you, and then we can take the conversation forward. There is a migration development effort. So if the client already invested in XP and we want to do the same thing here again in the CDP, there's some differences in technology. You have to run again from scratch. So you need to think about how you're gonna develop the new thing in the CDP. So yeah, Sitecore always kind of push toward this for the customers who do not use XP. A lot of customers purchase XP for we're gonna use it one day, and they never did. So they always encourage them to remove XP and go with the CDP. It will be relatively equivalent cost, but you might pay a little bit more for the CDP, but you get a lot of more functions, and you'll be future-proof, and yeah, it's way better direction to go to. It's definitely one step toward XM, especially if you're going to remove the XP and you're going to rely on XM only. You have less things to worry about now. It doesn't necessarily require a Sitecore dev. Any front-end developer with upskilling him in the CDP will do, because you're creating variants. If the marketers know what they're doing, it will be a relatively easy job for any front-end developers to do. XP support cost, yeah, again, the infrastructure kind of discussion, the upgrades kind of discussion. When you have XP, make it a little bit harder to upgrade. All of that creates a bit of overhead, especially if you're using XP. It's a bit breaks all the time and needs a lot of infrastructure adjustments, so there's a bit heavy cost in running the XP. Opening new doors for marketers with the new features of the CDP. No out-of-the-box support for data migration. So if you have data, precious data in the XDB and you don't want to let go, it will be a little bit of a hard job to move this data to the CDP. They opened the patch API like we saw, so somehow we need to figure out, build a way ourselves to migrate this data. The Sitecore will work in integrating the SaaS products better. As you saw, there is one connector with Lucent, and that's very one of them. But Sitecore in the future will create a lot of those connectors and make sure all of the products are connected properly to each other. So it's definitely the way to go. So questions time.
You mentioned that it supports full stack personalization.
Yeah.
How does it work with if you want to do like backend or edge personalization? How does it know the user and how does it integrate with the type of personalization?
Yeah, you probably have to build that yourself using the REST API. So I would imagine if you have like any static rendering or something like that, probably not going to work anymore because you need your HTML to be dynamic based on the decision that's going to come from the CDP.
Yeah.
So any static thing is going to be converted to a dynamic thing, and it's going to be server-side rendering with REST API slotted to the CDP and coming back to this decision. It will increase your load time as well, but CDP I find it very quick. And yeah, I don't know if you could choose the data center where you want your instance to be, but I believe they said they can work out with you. And so it's as quick as possible to your
Is that a requirement that you have to convert all your static rendering into server-side renderings? Because
no, not really, but he was asking about edge server. So in edge server, you probably have something, right?
Okay. Okay.
But not necessarily you don't have to.
How does it know which visitor it is? Like, how do you pass this visitor information? Is it like some kind of a token or?
Yeah, so that ID that you saw, that's your ID to identify the user, and that would be across all the systems.
The front-end dev requirement to create the experiment, is that the only option? Because then that creates a heavy dependency for the marketers and the marketing team on a developer to create any experiment.
Yeah, it does.
It's not front-end development, but JavaScript. The way you create experiment is you do it with JavaScript.
Yeah. You could define your templates and put it in the library, and the marketers will be able to use that across.
Okay.
But yeah, you have to have that dependency.
Yeah. Sitecore also provides a set of inbuilt templates as well, I believe. Yeah.
Out of the box they do, but yeah, as you saw, it depends on the style and the branding.
Yeah.
So I believe every customer will have their own set of things. Because this time you could reuse some of the stuff, but the marketers usually don't know how to edit HTML. So probably need a front-end developer for that.
Okay. 21 then and can we define the duration of data retention with CDP? Because with XPay, that's one of the major problems I think everyone will come across, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not really sure to be honest. Yeah, that's a really good question. But since we're not worrying too much about the back end, and now it's another question: how do they price? How the pricing model will work as well, and the licensing. If it's relying on the data, then having a data retention is a good idea to make sure that the pricing is as low as possible. And if it's relying on the number of requests and response, then I don't really care. But I might if the session become a little bit heavy and it takes a lot of time, so data retention would be good. Yeah. I believe they mentioned something around that, but I'm not really sure.
Mohamed, while setting up, did you got the chance to see that if we have a fixed set of facets to collect the data, or we can also customize, we can add more as per client requirement? In XP, we can create custom facets to collect the data.
Yeah, so here they don't call it facets, they call it just extension properties, but then you could add any extension properties you want.
So we still have the option to add more and more as per our requirement.
Yeah.
With XP, that facet creation took us at least half day to 1 day to create extra facet. Here it's way straightforward.
Yeah, you don't even need to define it at some point. You just use your own definition and you send the JSON structure and it will start collecting.
Yep.
So the risk here is that if you change that data structure at any point, you need to manage the historical data as well. So that comes into our shoulders.
When would you use CDP over Personalize? When do we make that call that we want both products? Or
I asked a lot of questions to Sitecore about that specifically, but it seems like the the line between the Sitecore CDP and Personalize is not well defined, kind of. So probably if you don't care about your customer data and you don't care about the the retention of that data and integration with API or whatever, and you just want to use a simple personalization, simple A/B testing, Personalize is the way to go. If you really think about investing in your CDP area, want to bring in some things from different kind of parts of the business as well, and putting it in one place, using it in multi-channel, not only in the website, but also mobile apps and whatnot, and you probably need the CDP as well. Yeah, and the difference between them is at the very beginning of the slide. This is all the information that I have about when to use what. Right. So the personalizing is the front-end stuff, decisioning, personalization, targeting, and the CDP in the back-end kind of stuff, like integration with API, data collection, profile segmentation.
So analytics is in CDP. So does that mean we will have to use Google Analytics for capturing our data?
I think what they mean here
if we don't go for CDP.
Yeah, I think what they mean here is that the reporting, the kind of like heavy segmentation kind of thing, that's what they mean by analytics. But yes, you have to use Google Analytics for all the normal kind of analytics page views and stuff.
Josh, you have a question? I see your hands up.
Is he?
Yeah, thanks. Just expanding on that data retention question from before, what about PII data and management of that? For example, similar to GDPR or finance industry requirements around that, do you know of any built-in CDP functions or APIs that will help manage that?
Yeah, they did mention it. They did mention it. You could have it open or you could lock it in. But the problem is if you have like an extension thing and you put sensitive data in the extension, then they can't really manage that because they don't know what is the meaning of that properties. So for the main ones that they define, they help you manage that, and you could choose what to do with it. But if you're the one who defined the data, then it's your responsibility to manage the PII sensitivity. I hope that kind of answered it a little bit.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if you played with the front-end part of it and tried to do A/B testing or personalization rules.
Yeah.
Like I played around with this around 8 months back.
Yeah.
What issue I was facing is the components would flicker.
Yes.
Is that still happening?
Yes, that's still happening. And the only way to solve that is you create your own block in JavaScript in the front end, or you integrate it with the back end, so they serve the pages once. They don't really help you manage that. You have to do it by yourself.
Yep.
Client side.
Client side,
Which I guess is happening for any sort of A/B testing, right?
Correct. Yeah.
For any client side
anything
tools.
is client side, not server side.
Yeah.
You should, in that case, you should just have a spinner loader
Spinner or something.
instead of actually pulling up content and then changing it.
I think the problem is if you're doing for the banners at the top, right? Then you don't want the pages to jump when they load.
Yeah.
Just based on this slide, to extend on Gitesh's question, right? When do we go for Personalize and CDP?
Yeah.
Without CDP, would you say Personalize is more like an in-session option for personalization?
What do you mean by in-session?
You could still personalize an experience for a user, but applicable only for that particular session.
Yeah.
I, as a user, come back to the same page again 2 days after. You won't know about me because there's no data about the customer.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I can't answer that. I did ask a lot of those questions to Sitecore, but no response back. So it seems like we have to kind of have a hands-on and try it ourselves. Yeah, but I would picture it like you could still have personalization in XM without the XP. I would picture it something like that. Like you still in session kind of a little bit of historical data, but not too much. Yeah.
Cool. Good
Cool.
questions there.
All right.
Yeah,